Hello everybody, welcome to a rather windy and fortunately not yet wet Walton track for the Elmbridge 10k. Unfortunately today she's tied up with other batters. She sends her regards, but so here we go, my first 10k for a while, hoping for a good race, but the conditions aren't that favourable, and it's a part multi-terrain course because it goes along the towpath, so normally you don't really notice it, but this time the report said it's a little wet underfoot. Got the original Next percents in. I've had these ones now exactly 4 years. It came up on my Facebook timeline that I got these 4 years ago, so it's kind of odd, isn't it, that somebody would buy so many shoes that are reverted to a pair that are 4 years old. But I thought today, as it's sort of maybe slightly wet underfoot, that these are an ideal shoe for that sort of conditions.
Go on Tim, hold them off! And a push!
So not a huge amount of footage today, unfortunately, a bit windy and no seal on hand to do the thing. So let's look at my Strava. So my official time was 39.27 on gun and it was 39.24 on chip time. That compares quite well with previous years. In 2019 I did 37.37 I think it was, and then last year I think the chip time was 41.06. So basically I kind of split the difference. So I was a lot quicker than last year, but a bit down all I was 4 years ago. But of course I'm now 4 years older. I'm now 56 and I was 52 then. So here's the course. We basically start on the track, go out on the road, then it soon turns into a towpath. So you're spending quite a lot of time on this towpath, and it had quite a lot of overnight rain, so it was a bit damp in places and just a little bit of mud on the hills, as Ben Lotley would say. So it was quite tough, that towpath, I thought, because I had to sort of find your footing with a bit of muddy patches here and there, and also there's a few low-hanging trees. So you can see here that the 605 was largely on the tarmac, and then with the wind behind more or less, and then the 613, 615, you might look at this and think I was getting slower as the race went on, but I think that was kind of reflection on the fact that it actually got harder. The first mile was the easiest, and then when we turned back, actually my pace was holding quite well though, wasn't it? 628, 629, 634, and then I had a good sprint finish at the end. You saw in the little clip there, I was leading a group of 4 people. I managed to hold them all off. It's quite a good home straight finish, so always pleased to do that. And someone else remarked that I'd actually reached my max heart rate of 155, which is the same max heart rate that I've got on my Garmin. So that shows that I was kind of trying as hard as I can. And you can see here a little sprint at the end where my cadence really rocketed up past the 200s, averaging 186. It's about normal for me in a 10k. So yeah, I was perhaps hoping for a bit better, but the weather and conditions weren't perhaps conducive to it, although Johnny Cornish did that course record, which is amazing performance for sure. I did actually speak to him, but unfortunately the audio was lost, so I had to make do with some footage from, many thanks to Yanni Craner, one of my club mates, who was actually on the lead bike today rather than running. So I hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe and all that, and it's now got a few little interviews. Probably a bit of wind noise, so I hope you can largely hear us, but it was interesting. I've spoken to Joseph there. We both had the original Next percents on. He got his pair from eBay actually, but I think he still digs them out now and again for his races. So it's interesting that after all these shoes that we keep talking about, I've gone back to a 4-year-old pair. I think it's been a long time since I've dug out a 4-year-old pair for a race. Just shows how good they are, really. I think undoubtedly my favourite shoe. Maybe not of ever, because that's hard to say, but certainly my favourite shoe in modern times that I can remember. I had a New Balance 851 I had 13 pairs of. Wasn't a race shoe, and they had some Nike Zoom Ultra 2s, I think, some spikes. I did all my PBs in the early 90s, so they had a fond memory for me. A bit like the Dragonflies of that era. So here are the interviews then. Oh, you did? Yeah. So here we got these. This came off from Facebook. They're 4 years old, literally. My UK foxes. Which size are they?
These are size 8s.
They're the one you got off eBay, aren't they?
Yeah, I did actually, yeah.
Yeah. We've got, despite the fact we buy lots of shoes, and your Vaporfly 3s, the heel bit
It completely disintegrated, so I sent it back.
Well, these are done like 350 odd, and then they look like they've new.
Well, look at these.
Even despite running on the toe pop.
I've done these, I bought about 100 miles of these, they're still brilliant.
Yeah.
And they're still my favourites.
Well, I thought I wore these today because partly because I like them, and partly if it's a bit wet, then it just sort of like skims off the vaporwave.
It does.
Whereas with the mesh ones, you kind of feel it's just gets stuck in your socks.
Like, if you're listening, these are your best ones.
And they brought out the Ultraflyer, which is basically the same shoe with about 100 gram heavier. I don't know how they managed to do it. Nick Tearle Guildford, yeah, how'd you get on?
Yeah, it was alright.
It
was tough. I was about a minute and a half off my PB, but I don't think it was a PB day, was it?
No, well, I mean, my PB is sort of so old that I can barely remember it. But yeah, compared to I did better than last year. It was baking hot last year, so.
Johnny Cornish said he beat his time from last year by about a minute. So.
It was absolutely. I mean, it's been hot recently, but it one of those races that started hot seemed to get hotter. It was about 28 one
as well. Someone said.
It was windy today, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was just a slog. I mean, today I felt was struggle because that I think for us tall people, you know, it's like under the trees a bit, don't you?
Yeah,
and
you do.
You got to pick your line a bit on the few potholy bits, but same for everybody.
Dogs to jump on.
And then psychologically, you thought, oh, this is the easy bit going out, and then wait for this wind here.
But the races are gradually getting shorter because we did the 7 mile last weekend. We got this is 6.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't do the 7.
And this Friday, you're doing the 7K.
No, well, I had a look at that, and they sold out. So
you never get in the races.
I know.
I can't get you in that one.
Yeah. I can't do them all. I did a 400 on Monday in the Vets League, so my races are going up. So I thought you were going to give us encouragement around the way around, like you did last time.
Last time. On. No, I had a dippy tummy this morning, really runny tummy.
Yeah.
I know what I ate yesterday. I had, that pureed soup.
Yeah.
Spanish cold soup, which was not clever.
Oh, okay.
It's got no nutrients in it.
No. And a 10K on this course, I always find suffering because I always go up too quick, and then it's a case of how much you can hang on down that toe path. Don't worry about it. Into the wind as well.
Into the wind.
Yeah. Well, I was faster than last year, so I'll take that. What up? Yeah, about 39:30, I'd say, something like that. Yourself?
Yeah, just missed it, but
it was a couple of people like Steve Crawford I saw up ahead, although he was a 60. He's been beating me on the track by a bit, and he's beat me a bit on the 10K as well, so next time. But I really had to suffer that last mile, especially on the home straight, because the sun can't behind me, so I can't let them go by.
Steve's a good runner.
He is, yeah. What's next for you?
The wedding day.
Oh yeah, tried to enter that, but it was sold out, so I'll have to miss that this year.
Forward to that.
I've got a 5K road racing back to see 1st of August is probably my next one.
Okay.
So I hope it's less windy. It needs to be a half the distance, won't it?
Yeah, so I need to go and do some more of those. They're really good.
They're good, yeah. 10K is the first I've run, well not run, but first I've raced since the Tudworth one. No, it's Berwetchworth. Dorkington. No, got it right. Yeah. I'm doing a bit of everything. I did a 400 the other day, and I've done a 4.8 mile, 3K, 5K, now 10K, 10 mile. Then I did a marathon back in half marathon back in the winter. So, well, it's M55 club records are up for grabs. So I managed to get everyone by the 400, which was 0.3 out. So I need to have another go. That's really stretching the barrel of my bottom of my range. I think that one.
I have to say 400 is tough, isn't it?
Yeah. You can't really warm into that one. It's sort of straight from the gun. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. At least it's over quickly. Yeah, well done anyway. See you next one. So you overtook me at 7K, taking it easy. You overtook me about a mile, 2K, taking it sort of.
He was taking it easy.
He's taking it easy, yeah. And then I could see a couple of people who I thought I could maybe beat, just tantalising the distance, other than you guys. So, but yeah. And then there was some idiot that decided to do a sprint down the home straight, so I couldn't let a truck runner beat me on the home straight track, on my own track. So that finally pushed me off.
Another fabulous local race, though.
Yeah.
I love seeing all familiar faces and teams.
I was thinking, oh, this is going to be quite easier for 5K, and then the back seemed to take like physically longer. Of course, it took longer because it was harder.
And the wind.
And the wind, yeah. Although there were a few pots in the trees, it wasn't too bad, but this last bit was a bit of a struggle. When you thought I'd get the help from the tarmac, it was the wind then took over, so you could be winning either way. Oh, well done, guys. How are you going today?
Terrible.
It was a tough one, wasn't it?
It was a tough one actually.
Yeah.
If he had 50 winner here.
Did he? Yeah. I was thinking that the M60 winner was ahead of me, so I didn't vote well for my chances in the 50s. Well, they went for it. Well, Steve Caulfield and Bob, I think, Bannister. I could see them just ahead, but yeah.
Yeah, I found today tough actually.
I was better than last year by a long way. I got into 39.30ish, so yeah, so I was quite pleased with that considering. I mean, yeah.
Conditions weren't that quick.
I felt like I was really having to pull everything out. I mean, it was like 5k wasn't too bad, and then you realised you had the harder bits to come, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then,
well, coming back.
Yeah.
Wind was really
and I think then when your legs start to go, it's really, I find it harder then to pick my way on a rough, uneven surface. And I had to sort of like, I mean, making it the same for everyone. And then when I got to the tarmac, I think it'd be easier. And then the wind seemed to hit more, didn't it? You know, and oh, when's this thing going to end?
And the other factor was today was really humid.
Yeah. It wasn't.
I was dripping on the
It wasn't as bad as last year in terms of the heat, but
no, the heat wasn't bad.
Yeah, but the wind. Yeah, it was a bit
85%.
humid, wasn't it? I didn't take a drink, but that was partly because I thought it was so near the end that it wouldn't make much difference. And I'm not sure I'd have tripping to get hold my arm out. But, yeah. How did you find it? It's tough, eh? It's wind. I was kind of waiting for the wind, but you're never really prepared for it, are you? Yeah.
I can't keep it.
Yeah.
My buoy is
Plenty of runners coming in now.
Yeah. Doesn't really help on that surface either when you're bobbing up and down a bit, isn't it? Looking for a good line. But yeah, it's always good to go. I like a racer, isn't it? So, yeah. I thought when you went past me, I wouldn't see you again, but then I dug deep last. I had a good home straight kick. Try to pull somebody like behind, isn't it? You don't want to lose at the desk to somebody. Yeah. So.
My buoy is very tight.
Yeah.
You need runners.
Oh, at least you got through, all right.
Two from stragglers.
Yes. Yes, Zoe.
Well done, Zoe.
Well done. Go on, Tim, hold him off. And a push.
From number 158.